Alright, the final Buddyfight ride line is here, that being the big first villain of Buddyfight. So let's begin. So once again, we start off with a unique flag being Dragon Gaen. So just like the other flags, you can only play a specific type, in this case Buddyfight generic and Dragon race theme cards. So meaning just like the original, as long as it has dragon in the race, like even a combination of another word plus dragon, it's still part of the dragon race. With a unique second skill where, when this card is placed as the flag, you discard a card, but your death count becomes 7. So similar to the original, you get extra life from the original, so meaning your death count is extended, but you have less cards in hand. Although in this case for this deck, it might not be too bad to discard just because you can use the drop zone as resources. In which we go to the grade 1 with 8k power, head of the conglomerate, Kyoya Gaen. So when rolled upon by the grade 2, invitation to Disaster Kyoya, look at top 5 cards for your deck for one dragon race themed card that is not sentinel, reveal it and add it to your hand, of course shuffle your deck. Typical ride line that just sets you up. In which we go to the grade 2 with 10k power, invitation to Disaster Kyoya Gaen, where the skill is when rolled upon by the grade 3 Kyoya, you put the top card face down as gauge and you draw a card. So gauge charge plus drawing, pretty nice. And you will want that gauge because you're going to be using a bit of gauge, especially for your buddy. In which now we go to the grade 3 with 13k power, Savior of the World Kyoya Gaen, which has the first skill of count Vanguard during your turn. All your dragon race rear guards get plus 5k power active on your opponent's turn as well, which is nice to make some strong attackers. With the second skill of act Vanguard once per turn, cost counterblast 1. Look at top fighter's deck for one dragon race themed card, call it if it's a unit card, put it to your hand if it's an order card, and of course shuffle your deck. Stuff like this is always pretty nice, especially for consistency boosts, but of course everything still revolves around its support as this is Buddyfight. But it has a third skill which is called Dragon Throne, which I'm surprised this is not a set order because the original one was a set spell. So the skill is count Vanguard. You can call Azi Dahaka units ignoring the grade condition, and it can also attack from the back row center column, basically behind the Vanguard. If you guys don't remember, the original Azi Dahaka was a size 4, so they're just replicating it by putting it as grade 4, and because of Vanguard rulings, you can only call cards based on your Vanguard's grade, hence why this skill will have some importance because the new Azi Dahaka is grade 4. But it's also very nice that Azi Dahaka, being a presence behind Kyoya all the time, can attack from the back row center, which is actually a nice little touch. And once again, the fighter giving out a 4th attack to the buddy. And now it's time to Buddy Call Demonic Demise Dragon Azi Dahaka, which is a unique rearguard grade 4 with 13k power, and the skill is first you can't ride it and you call it by paying 2 gauges, which you don't even want to ride anyway because you want to keep Kyoya as your Vanguard. But anyway, to the main skills, first off is count rearguard. When this card would attack, you can choose an Azi Dahaka from your hand or drop and bind it, and if you do it for that battle, this unit battles all your opponent's front row units. Part of me wishes that it could just literally attack everything like the original along with destroying items, but that might be a little too strong, so it's understandable. But I kind of like that they did replicate its old skill with the second skill of auto rearguard. When this unit would be retired by your opponent's turn, or you reveal a card during a damage step during your opponent's turn. If your Vanguard does not have an item, search your deck for one a Quantum Golif and arm it to your Vanguard, and if you search your deck, shuffle it, basically replicating the original where in a way if it was destroyed the world will end, hence why Kyoya equips his new sword. Although considering that your opponent is most likely not going to retire this, I'm kind of glad that they put an alternate condition, aka the damage check part, so it kind of works as well. Overall, it's not too bad so far to nuke your opponent with. And then to Demonic Demise Source Aquatic Guanif, which is a size 4 sword that can only be armed at Kyoya, but you cannot play it other than through Azi Dahaka, just like the original. And similar to the original, it has count Vanguard during your turn. Your Vanguard gets 10k power and a crit, and Azi Dahaka units get plus 5k. With the second skill, auto Vanguard once per turn. When your armed unit is attacked, that armed unit gets plus 15k power into the end of the battle. Similar to the original, high power and crit, along with a defensive sword. And it's also nice that it also boosts Azi Dahaka, which the original one doesn't have. So glad to see that it has some traits of the original as well. And obviously it will make Azi Dahaka and Kyoya very big powerhouses basically. And now we go to Yearner of Extinction, Azi Dahaka, which is also grade 4 with 13k power, and you cannot ride this card, and you call it by paying 2 gauges and retiring one of your rear guards. In which the skill is auto rear guard. When this card is retired during your opponent's turn, or you reveal a card during damage step, if your Vanguard doesn't have an item, search your deck or drop zone for one a Quantum Golif and arm it to your Vanguard. And if you search your deck, shuffle it, so it's just like the other one, except that it has different skills afterwards, because it has the double attack skill on auto back row center rear guard. Once per turn at the end of this unit unit attack while your Vanguard is standing, cost counterblast 1 and stand this unit. So now you've got a 5th attack on top of the back row attacker. And speaking back row attacker, the last skill is auto back row center rear guard once per turn. When this unit is stood by this card's ability, aka through the other skill, this card gets 10k power. And if your opponent's Vanguard is at least grade 3, crit +1 and the end turn as well. So on top of Kyoya giving this the back row attack ability, this itself gives itself the double attack ability, giving you 5 attacks, and this itself giving some extra attack pressure as well, which actually makes it very nice, especially if your Kyoya is armed as well, meaning that you have 2 different attacks with extra crit, which in some cases might be difficult to guard, especially with a lot of attacks with high powers and crits. Although I do kind of like that each Azi Dahaka is meant for a different use. This one is more for pressure, the other one is more for nuking your opponent's board. But regardless, you have to run both of them, and maybe they will make the different forms in the future as well. And now to some support. So we start off with Twin Demon Dragon Zahak, which is a grade 2 with 10k power and the skill is Count Rearguard Guardian if your Vanguard is Kyoya plus 5k power and 5k shield active on your opponent's turn as well. Very nice that it can be a beater on its own, especially since this deck doesn't really have that many boosters. In which the second skill is Auto Rearguard when placed. If your order zone has a Dragon Ein, you can soul last 1 to look at top 7 cards for your deck for 1 Occult Godif or Azi Dahaka from among them and add to your hand. Basically, run this as a consistency searcher that could be a solo beater that can also be a 10k shield. And then we go to Dragon Knight Kaliostro, which is grade 1 with K power and the skill is auto when placed on rearguard, and if you do not put a card with the same card name on rearguard this turn, and your order zone has a Dragon Eye, you draw a card. Too bad this is hard once per turn, since if you place another one during this turn, you cannot play this ability, but free draw is always pretty nice, so I do recommend running it. And now we go to a dual support because we got one that is also a 100 Demon, Dragon Knight Pissarro, which is a grade 2 with 10k power and the skill is at front row rear guard. Rest this unit, draw a card, and then during the turn, you cannot move this to any other circle. So it has to be in the front row circle that must rest itself, making you technically lose an attack, but the next skill actually helps you nullify this part of it. Because the second skill is auto front row rear guard if your Vanguard is armed with a Occult Godif, or you have a rear guard that is Yamigeto, stand this unit. So basically, it's an engine for you to get your free draw if you're basically having your specific archetype cards. A little bit restrictive, but during the late game, definitely a free draw engine. Or in some cases, just use it as retire fodder, but still not too bad to run. And then Dragon Emperor's Legend. Put this card face down as Gauge, draw a card, and you have no face-up cards in the damage zone, countercharge 1. But for the rest of the turn, you can play a second order, but it has to be Divine Dragon Creation. Once again, a useful card that just gets you more resources, but it is restricted on what type of order you can play, so that does kind of suck, but overall just useful. In which we go to Divine Dragon Creation, where you play it by counterblasting 1. You draw 2 cards, and then until the end of the turn, you can play a second order, but it must be Dragon Emperor's Legend. So basically both of them are just restricted to each other, so you play one, you can play the other, but once again it's just more consistency and it's just personal preferences if you like them. Personally, I would just run the engine. And finally, here are the high rarity stuff, which are always awesome to see. And next week we got a near lyrical ride line that is not going to be anime, along with some Zeklim support, which I'm surprised to see. And so that's it for the new Kyoya ride line that is also with Dragon Ein and Azi Dahaka. What do you guys think of it? Overall, it is just awesome to see, especially since Dragon Ein was a unique flag, and I have been wondering how they're going to handle the Dragon Ein's part, and I imagine correctly, basically taking control of dragons. Which, speaking of dragons, it means that you could run some dragon-themed engines that you were not expected to run. For example, you could even play a drum or jackknife engine in the deck if you wish to do so. And it would also mean that over time this deck is going to get stronger as there's more dragon-themed support. And also bringing Azi Dahaka back is definitely awesome, especially putting it as a grade 4. Now when it comes to future support, I'm just curious how they're going to handle it, especially the evolving flags. But other than that, very awesome, and I might actually build the deck because I love Azi Dahaka. But other than that, that's it for this, and see you all next time.